Hello class, we're about to start Unit 5, Ratio, Rate, and Proportion. Section A, Introduction to Ratio, Rate, and Proportion. A ratio is a comparison between two quantities with the same units, while a rate is a comparison between two quantities with different units. Both are commonly written as fractions and should be reduced to simplest form. Example 1. There are 15 children in Mrs. Smith's class and 12 children in Mrs. Brown's class. There are 9 pies for the classes to share. Write the ratio of the number of children in Mrs. Smith's class to the number of children in Mrs. Brown's class. Okay, so we look at Mrs. Smith's class, which is 15. And it's 15 children. And it says we want to write the ratio for Mrs. Smith's class to the number of children in Mrs. Brown's class. And Mrs. Brown's class has 12 children. Now, if you notice, they have the same units. You can simplify out children. And then 15 and 12, they both have 3 in common. So your final answer would be 5/4. It says write the rate that expressed the number of children compared to the number of pies. So now the number of children is 27 from both classes, divided by the number of pies. We're told here that there are 9 pies for the classes to share. So we'll divide by 9. So the rate here, 27 divided by 9, actually I should have written children. So let me write that down here. It's 27 children to 9 pies. So then we will simplify that by dividing both by 9. And our final answer would be 3 children for every 1 pie. And this is our ratio. Or you could write it 3 children per pie or 3 children to 1 pie. Either one is fine. It says example 2. If gasoline prices went up 25 cents over the course of 2 days, what is the rate at which gasoline prices increased per day? So it went up 25 cents over the course of 2 days. So we would take 25 cents and divide that by 2 days. Now, 25 divided by 2, we know that ends up, if you put that in your calculator, it ends up being 12.5 cents per day or per 1 day. And that is the final answer to example 2. Now we go to example 3. Gary started out driving at a speed of 45 miles per hour, but after 4 hours his speed was 70 miles per hour. What is the rate at which his speed increased per hour? So remember, Gary started out at 45 miles per hour and it ended up at 70 miles per hour. So what we would need to do is subtract those two values. 70 minus 45 would be 25. So now we would take that 25 and divide it by 4. So this is speed miles per hour all over 4 hours. So they ask what is the rate of speed. So if we divide 25 divided by 4, that'll give us 6.25 miles per every hour. That was the rate of speed. Now, a proportion is a statement that two ratios or rates are equal. The equality between equivalent fractions is an example of a proportion. We have 2/3 is equal to 8 over 12. Why? What form of 1 did we multiply by? Now, if you look here, they're asking us what did we multiply by to get to 12 here. Now, we can do the cross multiplication here. And the true proportion, the cross products will always equal. But let's concentrate on this first. To get this denominator to be 12, we will have to multiply this denominator by 4, and we also must multiply the numerator by 4. And that would give us 8 over 12. And as we see, these two are equivalent. Now we come down here when we use proportion. When you use proportions, you have a fraction equal to a fraction, and you would do cross multiplication. So you would take the top of the first fraction times the bottom of the second fraction. 2 times 12 is 24. Then we'll take the bottom of the first times the top of the second. 3 times 8 is 24. And if they're equivalent, then they're proportional. Now we come here to these examples. Now I am going to use a calculator to do some of these questions, just so that we will have it, so they go by a little quicker. Okay, so now we do the cross multiplication. We add 3.4 times 7.2 is equal to 4.8 times 5.1. Because remember, we'll take the top of the first times the bottom of the second, and then we'll take the bottom of the second times the top of the first. Now let me put this in a calculator. 3.4 times 7.2 is equal to 24.48 equals, we would take 4.8 times 5.1, and that would give us 24.48. So our answer would be true. They are proportional. Now we come here to the second problem here. Now we're dealing with fractions. We still follow the same method. We add 3/5 times 1 1/2 is equal to 2 1/4 times 1/3. Now to multiply this, we need to change these mixed numbers to improper fractions. So it'd be 3/5 times 3/2 is equal to 9/4 times 1/3. So then this will give us 9/10, and this will give us 9/12. Now listen, we cross multiply here. We add 9 times 12 is equal to 10 times 9. 9 times 12 is 108, and 10 times 9 is 90. They do not equal, so it's false. Now we have section B, solving a proportion. When you find a missing number to make a proportion true, we say that you are solving the proportion. Do this by finding the cross products and setting them equal to one another. Now we have this solve each proportion. So we would do cross multiplication. We have 8 times 25 is equal to 20 times x. 8 times 25 is 200 is equal to 20x. We divide each side by 20, and that would be 10 is equal to x. That would be your final answer. Now we do the same thing here. We have n times 12 is equal to 9 times 5. N times 12 is 12n is equal to 45. We divide each side by 12, and n is equal to, now 45 and 12 both has 3 in common, so that will leave us with 15 over 4. Now we could leave this as 15 over 4, or we could change this to a mixed number. We can go off to the side and take 4 and the 15. It goes 3 times, and we have a remainder of 3. So our final answer would be 3 3/4. Or you could have left it as 15 over 4. Now we come here to this next proportion. We cross multiply. It'll be 1.25 times y is equal to 7.5 times 0.3. Now you have 1.25y is equal to, let's multiply this out. It'll be 2.25. Then we divide each side by 1.25. Y is equal to, we can take our calculator and take 2.25 divided by 1.25. And that gives us 1.8. And that is our final answer. Now we come here, we cross multiply. We have 5/6 times 1/2 is equal to 4 times k. So it'll be 5 over 12 is equal to 4k. Now we can divide each side by 4. Now, whenever we have, well, first let's simplify this out. This will leave k. Whenever we have a fraction over a number, we will leave this top number the same, which would be 5. The new denominator would be these two bottom numbers multiplied by each other. 12 times 4 is 48. So it'll be 5 over 48. Now that's one way of doing it. You can do it another way where we could take the, and I'm going to write this off to the side, we could take 5 twelfths divided by 4, and we could make this 5 twelfths times, this would be 4 over 1, it will become a reciprocal of 1/4, and multiply straight across, which will still give us 5 over 48. Now, we scroll on to section C, applications of proportions. It says it takes a groundskeeper 2 hours to mow 5 acres of lawn. How many acres can he mow in 7 hours? So again, it takes 2 hours to mow 5 acres. That is the proportion. Now we equal, well, this is the fraction here. Now we equal this here. Now we have our hours, so we'll match hours with hours. But we don't know how many acres, so your acres would be x. So we will do cross multiplication. We have 2 times x. I just left the units off. We could put them on at the end. And then we will have 7 or 5 times 7, just to stay consistent. So it'll be 2x is equal to 35. We'll divide each side by 2. And x will equal to 17.5. Now it'll be 17.5 acres per hour. Now, as I made a slight little error, it should just be 17.5 acres. Because remember, you already have the 7 hours. So it'd be 17.5 acres that could be mowed in 7 hours. Okay, now we come to number 2. A 180-mile road trip used 7.5 gallons of gas. How far would you be able to travel on a full tank of 16 gallons? So, 180 miles for 7.5 gallons of gas. And that would be equal to, we know the 16 gallons will go down here with the 7.5 gallon. And now we have x for the mileage. So we cross multiply. We have 180 times 16 is equal to 7.5 times x. So 180 times 16, put that in the calculator, give us 2,880 equals 7.5x. We divide each side by 7.5. So we can put that in our calculator. And that would give us 384 miles is equal to x. So that's how far they could travel on 16 gallons. Now we come down here to number 3. A 28-gram serving of Cheerios contains 100 calories and 3 grams of fiber. How many calories would there be in a 40-gram serving of Cheerios? So we don't need the grams of fiber. That's just extra information. So we have 28 grams for 100 calories equals to, we know that we have 40 grams, but we don't know how many calories. So we'll cross multiply. 28x is equal to 100 times 40. We know it's 4,000. We divide each side by 28. And we would take 4,000 divided by 28. And that gives us 142. We'll round this to 143. So it'd be x is equal to 143 calories. And as a matter of fact, we need to change this to the squiggly lines to indicate that it's an approximation. So it's approximately 143 calories for every 40 grams. And we are done.